On April 7, 1994, the nightmare began in Rwanda. Extremist Hutus began a genocide against the Tutsi minority. Over 800,000 people were killed in just 100 days. Neighbors turned on neighbors, families betrayed each other. Radios incited violence with messages like, "Kill the cockroaches." But why did the world do nothing? The UN was present in Rwanda, but restricted from intervening. Western countries withdrew their troops. Even the US avoided using the word genocide, and so the world looked away, and humanity failed again.
On April 8, 1904, Britain and France signed the Entente Cordiale. It was meant to settle colonial disputes and avoid future conflicts. They divided zones of influence, especially in Egypt and Morocco. But this agreement did more than avoid war, it shifted alliances. It became the foundation for the Triple Entente with Russia. Germany saw this as a threat, increasing tensions in Europe. This rivalry led directly to the outbreak of World War I. A simple agreement sparked a global chain reaction.
On April 9, 1241, the Mongols clashed with European forces at Legnica. Polish, German, and knightly orders united to resist the Mongol invasion. But they were no match for the strategy of Subutai and Batu. The Mongols used feigned retreats and ambushes to destroy the coalition. The defeat shocked all of Europe. The Pope called for prayers fearing total Mongol conquest. Only the death of the Great Khan stopped their advance westward. Europe narrowly escaped a much darker fate. On April 10, 1970, the Beatles officially announced their breakup. Fans around the world were devastated by the news. Why did they break up? Tensions had grown after their manager, Brian Epstein, passed away. Business issues and musical differences drove them apart. John and Paul in particular clashed frequently. Even their final album, Let It Be, was recorded separately. Yet their solo careers produced timeless classics. The Beatles didn't disappear, they transformed into legends. On April 11, 1945, American forces liberated Buchenwald concentration camp. Thousands had already died from starvation and abuse. The survivors were emaciated, barely clinging to life. Nazi guards had fled, but the truth remained. Buchenwald held political prisoners, Jews, Roma, and more. It was a site of horrific experiments and torture. Remarkably, prisoners organized a rebellion days before liberation. Their courage helped delay executions and aided U.S. troops. Buchenwald became key evidence in the Nazi war crimes trials. Never forget. Never again. On April 12, 1961, Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space. He launched aboard the Soviet spacecraft Vostok 1. He orbited the Earth once, spending 108 minutes in space. This was during the Cold War and the space race. Gagarin's success was a major victory for the Soviet Union. He famously said, "The Earth is blue." From above, there were no borders, just a fragile planet. Gagarin became a global hero and symbol of hope. Humanity's journey to the stars had begun. On April 13, 1111, Henry V was crowned Holy Roman Emperor by Pope Paschal II. But this was more than a ceremony, it was a political standoff. Europe was in a fierce struggle over investiture rights. Who had the authority to appoint bishops, the emperor or the pope? Henry invaded Rome and pressured the pope into a coronation. Though crowned, the power struggle was far from over. This conflict defined medieval European politics for decades. It wasn't just about crowns, it was about control of souls.